welcome back. Okay, let's head over. Some more buildings got on. Let's get rid of the pollution. The turtle is complete. So let's head over on the trains, because I'd like to walk through a relatively simple method for handling trains and station occupancy. This isn't a long ride, so let's just get over there. So the way this works is this is a loading station, and I've decided to go with a 4-train system across the whole of the network this time. So got a green cable that counts or runs through every one of the boxes and sends the result to the train station, and the train station is set to disable if the number of iron plates that are counted up across all of those boxes is less than 57,000, which is exactly half of a box of all the boxes. So there's 48 slots in a box. 48, and there's 6 of those in one carriage, and there's 4 of them. Multiply it out, you get 115,200, sorry. So half of that, that's our goal, is don't send a train to this station if there's not at least half of the boxes full. Hence 57,000. It's actually, if you go down tight on it, it's 57,600 is the set constant. So that will turn the station on and off. Now this one is still green because it's one train load doesn't halve the station. So once this train network grows and we have multiple trains all calling here and multiple iron ore processing areas, as we bring in this one over here and expand out and grab this one, trains won't make a journey to a station that isn't ready to receive them. They just won't. And that's an advantage. Otherwise you have trains going to a station that can't actually service them if it's just fixed point to point. And the way to do that is to have train stations with the same name. See this 2 here? So there's 2 iron plate stations and there's 2 copper plate stations. And you just keep adding the stations with the same name, and then allow the trains to select which one that they'll go to. And they'll only go to the ones that are open with the same name, and they'll go to the closest station as well from wherever they are. So it self-optimizes. It's really, really handy. Now, if we just wait, yeah, the train's going to come back, so I'll catch a ride back. So that's a quick and simple way. Count up all of the object totals in the boxes, link them all together with a green or red wire. You can do a combinator here, which would make it maybe a little bit easier to read. But regardless, you don't need to. The circuit condition connection on the train station is good enough. Let's just override that and send it back. And again, this is by no means the main setup. This whole base, this whole factory is just to bootstrap up to the point where we can get to space. I'll scale this out massively so that it can, do silly numbers. But just getting through this early part of the game and learning the expansion. There's so many changes in this compared to vanilla Factorio. One of which I'll come to over here. So this is just a testing area. I've been doing some different builds, trying some different ideas for how to better make green circuits and red circuits. And I finished this and then looked at it and went, oh wow, that's so inefficient. because I'll have to tear the whole thing down and do it again. But this is part of the thinking for Purple Science, Production Science Pack 3. And to make Purple Science, you need rails, electric furnaces, and productivity modules. And the key there is electric furnaces, because you need to make obviously a lot of them to make Purple Science. And as a byproduct, there's a new object called quality module. And placing a quality module in your factory increases the chance that you will output a higher quality. It's very hard to see, it's very small, it's as big as I can make it. A larger quality furnace, and they go up. The quality is increased, it's the crafting speed that increases, nothing else. There's no difference to wattage or power consumption or anything else, it's just crafting speed. So the basic furnace has a crafting speed of 2. The uncommon, the green, has a crafting speed of 2.6, and rare has a crafting speed of 3.2. So as a byproduct of making the foundations for Purple Science, i.e. electric furnaces, why not have it just spit out occasionally some better quality furnaces, which I can then reuse over here to well, anywhere really, but given how slow it is to make steel, why not have them make it a little bit faster? Now, sure, you can put faster modules in them in these, but when they've already got a base of 3.2, then the faster modules are only going to make them more efficient still. So I think it's a win totally. Now, to effectively deal with that, filters. So set a filter to allow only basic electric furnaces and push them out into this column. And this one has a filter that only allows, that doesn't allow basic furnaces. So everything else will come out. And that'll automatically separate them out into 2 columns and have them collate at the bottom. Now, I was looking at this problem, is how do I mirror this? How do I make this go? And the easiest way is there's a horizontal flip in when you make a blueprint. So this is a blueprint of this structure here. Horizontal flip flips this and it would logically sit here. The only problem is, and there's no fix for this that I can see, is your filters aren't fixed when you flip it. So these will come out onto the wrong tracks, and there's no good fix for this. So while the horizontal flip makes sense and it allows you to build out a fast solution like that pretty quickly, it will require you to switch this around so that quality is not normal for that one, and quality is normal for that one, and do that for each one. And I don't have a solution for it. Well, now that I've built it out twice, there is an obvious solution. Take this like that, create blueprint, and then I can just snap it out. And that will now correctly place them in the right structure. But that first horizontal flip, you've got to remember when you're doing that it doesn't solve for filters. You've got to solve them manually and then go in and fix them afterwards. Too easy. Yeah, this red-green testing area that I was working on up here, I was really fixated on the whole copper to copper wire problem and how to get a run of 3 to efficiently move through red circuits. And then I sort of, after I'd gone to all this trouble and sort of made a mess, realised that the whole copper problem is something that exists for green as well, and you can feed directly green into red. So I could, in essence, put a copper run here that would sort of deal with the copper problem, or sort of deal with it, but make copper wires out and put them on one line, and then that's a solved problem. The interesting thing with copper, and it's something I'll look at, and certainly look at much closer, is copper stacks. Again, I know this resolution's really small, but copper stacks to 200, whereas copper plate only stacks to 100. So density for movement, when you're moving objects in trains, and you get 48 blocks of objects in a train, it is far more efficient to move copper wire than it is to move copper plate. Because instead of a stack of 100, I know it's iron plate, but bear with me, you would get double the capacity in a box and double the capacity in a container. And making copper wire is so quick. Most objects that use copper, especially in electric circuits, use copper cable. They don't use copper plate. Not everything. I'm looking for an example. No, that's electric circuits. That's copper wire. Electric circuit, copper wire. Electric circuit, copper wire. There aren't many that use copper plate natively. So it's almost worth setting up a copper wire foundry and then just moving copper wire throughout the base as a direct feed. It's far more efficient from a box stacking perspective, let alone the ability that you get once you start stacking on belts. So yeah, I'm going to redo this whole thing and have a copper wire ingest layer that then feeds the green directly into the red as an output, and see if I can't make this a lot more efficient. Don't get me wrong, this wasn't bad. It just works. It's relatively clean. It's predictable, and it's easy to see the flows, and it's obviously highly patentable. There's only three inputs: copper, iron, and plastic required for the red circuits. And again, we're doing this to set up an area for Purple Science. Purple Science is rail, which is just rock and rods and steel, so it's easy. Electric furnace, we talked about that here, and the knock-on effects when you're doing electric furnaces. Let's just turn that on so it starts running. Sure, you need to make a lot of these basic electric furnaces to do the work, but occasionally you're going to get some fast ones, and that seems to be the unexpected benefit, as long as you can capture them and not use them ever when you're making the science packs. And the last one is straight up productivity modules, which are the red modules, and they're easy. They're just green and red circuits, so that just flows out there, and we've got a bunch already in a box ready to go to output this into science once I'm ready to finalize it. But yeah, it's a really interesting problem. Sort of solving itself. Then the ability to take these and replace your furnaces with ones that are 0.26 or which is about 30% for green, and then for blue, epic, effective blue colouring is usually epic. They're another 30%, so 60% faster just by laying them over the top of the previous ones. That's an amazing benefit, and you should never waste the whole opportunity while you're building Purple Science. Never waste any of these because they're just too valuable later on for what you're going to get. It's also why I don't worry too much about. There's so many articles and discussions about balancing and you know, making sure everything is perfectly optimized. With Factorio, the way it is now, until you get to the very end game, when you've done your launches and visited all 5 planets, and sorry that was a spoiler, but if you're in this deep, you knew that was coming. Balancing early on is really pointless. I genuinely feel that's true. I mean, I'm using blue factories. I haven't upgraded to yellow yet. There's no modules in them. I'm using red belts, not blue belts, not green belts. You know, there's so many additional layers that will come where at that point, when you've got to the end game and all you're using is high-end smelters and high-end factories that are, you know, premium stuff, then you can worry about trying to get your optimization right, because until then, everything you do, every research you make is going to change the ratios of optimization and make what you've done, I'm not going to say pointless, but redundant. And then if you get caught up in that whole I need to be optimized all the time, you'll never progress. So build something that looks right, that works, use it until it becomes unusable, and the factory will tell you when things become unusable. Figure out why. So figuring out why, in this case, our inputs are full. All of the input lines are full. There's a tiny little backlog here. Tiny little backlog. Our outputs are empty. So our problem here is we simply haven't got enough factories making red circuits in this design yet to hit optimization. That's fine. To get this right, looking at the way it is set up, I would probably need to make 4 or 5 of these in a row with this level of density to saturate it. And I will do that. But for a test area, this is all you needed to prove it. Again, the factory will tell you where the bottleneck is, and it'll show you where you've got to look. If your input lines are depleting before they hit the end of the row, then your belts are too slow or your lines aren't saturated. If your outputs are full to the point that you aren't outputting, then your outputs aren't fast enough. In this case, they are fast enough, they're just not being consumed because the output goes all the way to the end and it's full. So the problem is red circuits. And every module set in Factorio will give you a clue as to what isn't efficient about it and how to fix it if you let it tell you. You can walk up here, not that this factory is working particularly hard at the moment, and look for areas. Actually, when I say not working hard, it's not working at all. It's pretty much idling. There's nothing going on until I finish doing purple science. I'm going to have to move the labs out of this area, which was fine. It was only a temporary area. I'll move them down, probably down above the stations, and then set up to do purple and yellow science. They're the next 2 projects. But this area, even after I've converted it all to electric furnaces, now is being supplemented by the rail system. There's the insert for the rail system there, and the rail system is now doing most of the work. That is just processing out the results. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about today, was station balancing. 115,200 is a full set of copper plate or iron plate for 4 trains. You've got to crack out the old calculator and figure that out. 48 times the number of boxes in times the number of carriages, and then halve it, and then you know when the train goes to that station that train can be filled and serviced, and then if the station turns itself off, that's great. In fact, no, they haven't yet turned off. There isn't enough being produced. They're all currently on, so there's more than 57,000 in that train station. Otherwise it'd be a little red dot, not a white dot. That's it. That's all I've got for today. The other thing was mirroring blueprints. It's frustrating, but filters don't automatically work. Even though the filter is still applied, it'll be on the wrong belt if you've got more than one filter, especially if you're using different length extenders. So you'll have to manually fix that. And you can see, again, I'm zoomed in as close as I can, the little does not equal there and does not equal there means it's putting it out to the right belt. Right. Thanks very much. Hope to see you in the next one.